I want y'all to know that I'm never actually changing clothes. Like I wear a tank top all the time. I just throw on a sweater when I'm about to do one of these videos, and that's about it. Oh my god, thanks to the magic of editing, I magically let down my hair and put on a sweater. Alright everybody, so today's video, what I wanted to talk about was the topic of being your own boss, because I have been my own boss now since 2012 in some form or another. I've had a lot of day jobs in the meantime, but I have been working on building my blog, developing my business that entire time, and that means that to some extent or another for that entire time, I have been my own boss. A big problem of starting any business venture, any creative project, anything that you are attempting to get out there into the world is that for a very long time, you're not going to be making any money from it. And that makes it so that it can be very hard to be motivated to do the things that you need to do because you're not yet seeing any reward from it. This was me for quite a few years. Basically from 2012 until about 2016, I was making very little money from my blog. I had maybe a couple clients here or there. It was maybe a couple $100s a month extra income. Of course, I wasn't going to turn that down, but it wasn't enough to live on. It wasn't enough to make that my day job. And so I very often struggled to find the energy to continue developing it. And that was simply because I needed to focus on those day jobs because that was what was really paying the bills at the time. And of course, when you have a day job, you're busy, you're working all the time, that's where all of your energy goes. Oftentimes, you don't have a lot of energy left over. At one point, I had a really terrible job that I hated a lot, where I would work basically upwards of 10 hours a day at this job. It was a labor job, it was very intensive. And so I would get home sometimes at 10 p.m. or later, and I would just be exhausted, and I would know that I still had some client work that I had to do because my clients were waiting on me. It would take maybe another hour or two, and I'd be working until midnight or 1 a.m. And I would know in my head that I had to be back up at 6 a.m. the next day to do the whole thing over again. And it just really sucked. It really drained the life out of me. And it made it very difficult, again, to actually focus on developing my business at that time. The big change happened in 2016 when essentially what I decided to do was quit that difficult job because I knew that it was draining all the life out of me. I knew that it was paying pretty well, but it was also at the same time not the best choice for my future. It wasn't going to work out well for me. And so what I ended up deciding to do was to quit that job in order to take on a much easier part-time job where I would have a lot more energy to focus on developing my business. So that job was a job where I was working as the manager at a gym, and basically what that meant was that I just had to sit around in front of a computer all day, occasionally deal with some client issues and so on, maybe sign up a new member periodically, but I didn't really have very much to do a lot of the time. I just had to show up very early in the morning at 5:30 a.m. to open the gym, and then I had to sit around at a desk until about 11:30 a.m., and then I would go home. And that was me 5 days a week. And it paid minimum wage. Again, it wasn't great money, but it was enough money that with that and with the money that I was making from my business, I could pay my bills, I could pay off my student loans. And from there, basically what I did was I was just able to really spend all of my energy focusing on developing my business for the first time in, again, the 4 years or so since I had started it. And that was when things started to really take off because I really had all the energy to focus on it that I wanted to. Ultimately, in late 2016, I decided to quit that job to focus on developing my business full time. At that point, I was making more money from my business than I was from that day job, so it just made sense. For a couple of years, I exclusively worked for myself. Around 2018, late 2018, I decided that I was getting a little bit bored of being my own boss, and we'll talk about why a little more in a minute. And because of that lag in my motivation, I decided to get another day job, this time working in the video game industry, and I really enjoy that day job, and I really enjoy continuing to have my business on the side because it offers me a lot more opportunities and a lot more safety than I would have otherwise. So ultimately the question, what is being your own boss like? I think that we all like to focus on the glamorous side of being your own boss. When you read things like Tim Ferriss's 4-Hour Workweek, that's all this content that's just dedicated to sort of glamorizing the ability to work for yourself, to work from home, and not to have those kinds of restrictions like needing to go into an office or being reliant on a different boss. Yeah, it's true. All of those things fall away, but at the same time, being your own boss means that you're solely responsible for the success of your own business. Because I worked online, there was basically no limit to the amount of work that I could continue to put into the business each week if I wanted to continue to grow it. And that was a big part of the problem because it messed up my work-life balance. I could work from anywhere, I could work at any time, and there was basically no limit to the amount of work that I could do to continue growing my business. And so that meant that there would be so many nights when, for example, I would be sitting on the couch with my wife, we would be watching TV, but I would also have my laptop out and I would be plugging away at something that I could be working on at the moment. I got very used to the idea of just working all the time, just filling all the free space in my life with work, and it had some impacts on my mental health and on my relationship with my wife as a result. When you work for yourself, it's also not often clear what the next steps are. It's not always clear. When you work at a day job, the answer is very clear. You know how to make money, your job has been very clearly laid out, and you fulfill the requirements of your job, and in doing so, you get paid money. That's how you get money. When you are working for yourself, you don't necessarily know what's going to be the next thing that continues to grow your business. You don't know the next thing that is going to cause more clients to come in your door to express interest, because there's such a wide range of potential things that you could do at any given moment. You don't know, for example, when a particular post that you've made is going to be very viral, or a particular post that you've made is not going to be very well received at all. You don't know if you're going to be having a lean month or a good month because maybe a few clients decided to cancel, or you just had a lot more signups than usual. You can't really predict any of that stuff. And so you're constantly in this state where your income is fluctuating a bit. You don't really know what's going to happen next at any given time. And you don't really know what you need to do next. You're constantly needing to try and think, okay, what could I do now? What should I do now? I don't know, because you don't necessarily know at any given time. There's no roadmap laid out for you. You were just trying and grasping at straws, trying to do basically anything you can that is going to continue developing your business the way that you want to. So while there's a lot of work that you can do, you don't necessarily know also whether that work is going to be productive or not. You don't know what things are going to turn into failures. And there have been so many failures that I had in the years that I have run this business. There have been so many times that I've spent hours and hours and hours creating something that I thought would be well received, only to discover that basically people didn't care about it at all. And then conversely, there have been so many times where I made something that I thought, oh, this is kind of crap, it's not any good, and then it ends up turning out that a bunch of people read it and it becomes very viral and it has very good SEO results and so on. Because I was solely responsible for developing my business, I often felt like a failure whenever anything went wrong. Anytime a client had to cancel, anytime I had a few lean months because of that, it really had an impact on my mental health because it made me worry. It made me wonder if maybe this kind of business wasn't really right for me. Maybe I wasn't really a good coach. Maybe the reality was that I was just going to be able to succeed for a little while and then entirely drop off. I just worried because I didn't know. You don't know what the next month is going to bring necessarily from month to month. And you don't know what failures are going to be followed up by successes and what successes are going to be followed up by failures. It's also very hard to motivate yourself to pursue the aspects of your business that are required but that you don't enjoy. So a very good example is that I am not a person who enjoys doing a lot of editing. I enjoy writing, I enjoy plopping some words out on the page, but I'm not necessarily someone who actually enjoys going back, critiquing myself, making improvements, and so on. And that's something that you have to do when you're preparing a blog post to go out. And so for a long time, I really struggled because sometimes I would write 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10 posts, and then I just would struggle to actually just edit or post any of them because I just, never felt good about them afterwards. And I never wanted to actually sit down and edit them, and it always felt like super slow and time consuming and boring. I've had social anxiety basically my entire life, and one of the ways that that is manifested is that I really hate doing phone calls. I can't really explain it, it's just something about me. And so as a result, in the very beginning, when I would have to schedule client phone calls to try and onboard a new client, get them to sign up, I would be very awkward, I would stumble over my words a lot. I definitely ruined a lot of potential sales as a result. And it was definitely something that took a lot of getting used to. I'm definitely a lot better now than I used to be, but it took quite a few years to really get comfortable with being able to do that. There are also things like that I would feel very anxious about responding to emails because I'd been having some emails from a client which implied, okay, they're not satisfied with the service that they're getting. They're not satisfied with me as a coach. Okay, now I feel really stressed out about that. and I feel very anxious about replying to their emails because I have an impending sense that they're going to cancel, and then that's going to mean that I'm going to have to find new clients and I'm going to feel like a failure. It's something where all of these have gotten better over time with more experience. I've gotten a lot more experience with this business. I'm a lot more comfortable, definitely, than I was again in 2012, now 9 years ago. It's been so long. But at the same time, it never gets completely easy. It's always work at the end of the day. It's always something where you have to put in a lot of the effort and you have to really put yourself out there. And again, you will feel like a failure a lot of the time, especially those first few years when I didn't really have a lot of time to dedicate to the business. I felt like a failure a lot more of the time. That was a much greater percentage of the time that I felt like I should be doing better, that I should be improving more, and so on. For a long time, I absolutely failed to live up to the standard of being my own boss. I simply wasn't good at motivating myself to enjoy the stuff that I needed to do. I wasn't good at doing the stuff that was going to help me find new clients. I wasn't good at attacking the weaknesses in my business in order to improve. I was just sort of on autopilot and putting in the bare minimum effort here and there, hoping that I would get great results, when of course that did not pan out that way. Now, of course, my business has grown significantly enough to the point where it's something that I can put on autopilot a bit here and there. It's something where it can continue to grow a little bit without me having to constantly put in effort. It's something where it used to be that I could put out a call saying, hey, I'm looking for new clients, and I would get maybe 1 or 2 responses. And now I can put out a call saying, hey, I'm looking for new clients. Now I get 4 or 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10. I get a lot more than I used to, and it's because there's a lot more interest and because I've been putting in the work over the years to make good content that people enjoy and that demonstrates that I know what I'm talking about. This was ultimately a pretty ideal business for me. It's enabled me to do a lot of things in my life that I couldn't do otherwise. So I was able to pay off my student loans in half the time thanks to the extra income that I was able to make from this business. I had the flexibility to be able to move to Europe with my wife when she got a job out here because, of course, I was not bound anymore by specific location-dependent income. And I have the ability to now increase my income when needed. If I'm having a few lean months, if I'm struggling a bit with paying bills and so on, what I can do is say, okay, this month I need to focus on finding a few more clients and focus on that, and I can just increase my income just like that, as opposed to something like a day job, where once you've got your salary, you can't really change that. It also pairs well with my current day job. Because I am no longer reliant on just one source of income like I used to be when I was primarily working at a day job, I'm now reliant on essentially just a lot of smaller sources of income. Every single client is one of my sources of income, and that means that, for example, if you have just one day job, you can get fired from that day job and there goes all of your income immediately, and that can be a pretty big blow. But nowadays, if I were to get fired from my day job, which I don't expect to happen, I would see that I still have a lot of income on the side from all of my clients. Likewise, if any one of my clients decides to cancel, it stings, it hurts, but that's only a small percentage of my overall income, and I know that I can simply focus on finding some more clients to make up for that loss. Sure, there will be some fluctuation to my income, but for the most part, it is now high enough overall that I don't have to worry about that fluctuation, and I can just focus on putting in the energy to get new clients when needed, and I have a lot more stability in my day job and in my business as a result. So of course, I always recommend checking out my blog if you're interested in more info about fitness and self-improvement. I have at this point over 200 blog posts, which I am very proud of. It's a big milestone for me. I have been writing for this blog again for 9 years, and I've been getting better and better and better with each post. And so it is very good content at this point, I promise you. On that website, you can also find a free exercise program that basically covers all your major bases: building strength, building endurance, and building muscle mass, and works really well for a lot of people. I'm also still taking on new clients currently. I put out a call recently that I am opening up 10 slots for this month. I have about 6 or 7 of those slots filled already, so those last few slots are probably going to go quickly, but I do have a few more left. So if you're interested, you should also check out my website and apply for coaching there. All right, everybody, that is it for today. As always, don't forget to comment, tell me what you want to see in future videos, hit that like button, hit that subscribe button, hit that notification bell, and I will talk to you all next week.